I'm Hungrybox, Juan de Vietnam. I've been playing since August '07 competitively. I think Brawl is a lot better than Melee because it has characters that you can hit someone and then they can't hit you back. And then, like, you can get a two-hit combo sometimes. My heart races when that happens, man. So, Brawl's a great thing.
My name is Kashan Khan, aka Chillindude829. I started playing before most of you were born. No, my first tournament was August 2002, and the reason Brawl is better than Melee is Snake up tilt.
Hey, Corey Archer, Yurok. I've been playing competitively for about 9 years now. And my favorite thing about Brawl is all the pretty colors.
So I'm Dreffin, started in competitively 2005-ish kind of thing, and Melee's better. Screwball.
I'm Eddie. I've been playing, I don't even know how long. But Brawl is better because it's nice and slow.
Hi, my name is TJ, also known as Viper Boy. My first tournament was in December of 2004. I would say Brawl is better simply because of, well, I agree with Jeff. Maybe Project Dale, how about that?
That was very moving, thank you. I'd like to just kind of start off maybe just talking about, you know, what, since you've been playing, what your impressions are, how the game has evolved. I know, like, Chillin', you'll have probably more to say than Juan, but, you know, just in the amount of time that you've been playing, how the game has kind of changed, and maybe also how the community has changed a little bit, too.
Like I said, I did start playing competitively in the post-MLG era. My first national was called the Greatest Management since Brawl came out, so basically I started right when Brawl came out. And it was pretty odd that, you know, I tried Brawl, of course, and I was like 5th in Florida at one point, but eventually just got too frustrated, and the matchups were just annoying, and I liked the fluidness of Melee a lot better. And I think the evolution of the game is really taking a course between going all aggro and focus on technicality versus being more passive-aggressive. You know, that's at least what I expect from players in a matchup. You don't want to be too, you know, get heads first in. You want to slow down, get your defense up, because I think the whole metagame, especially Falco, is taking a more defensive turn. So it's been overall a passive-aggressive evolution over the past, I don't know, 11 years.
So when I first started playing Melee, no one was very good, and people didn't really take the time to practice on their own very often for the first few years, except for Mewtwo King. So these days, the learning curve is much higher. It takes a lot longer. For example, Azen would take 6 to 7 month hiatuses from 05 to 07, come back and win a national. That just happened frequently. But he did that again recently last year and has not done nearly as well off the bat. The community has gotten so much better as a whole that, I mean, you can even see it in the first round pools yesterday. All the pools were pretty much tough. There was no easy pool at all, and it was, you know, rough for a lot of people to make top 4 with how good literally everyone's gotten. It never used to be that way. There used to actually be scrubs that I would be excited to play because it would be an easy match, but that does not exist anymore. So it's kind of crazy to see how much the community has stepped their game up collectively. The metagame has advanced way beyond in the past 2 or 3 years than it did in the first 7 or 8. So it's really crazy to see how much faster the game is progressing recently.
I kind of want to echo some of the things that Chillin' just said. It's really been kind of astounding to see the way people have adapted to different strategies and different tactics. I can remember when, you know, being able to just stop and shield grab was a pretty dominating ability, just to control somebody and have them be unable to even kind of approach you. And now the game has just evolved so far beyond that. It's absolutely ridiculous to just see what kind of things people come up with these days. It's just amazing.
There's like 3 different like eras that like stand out in my mind. One's like the the pre-first FC era where it's like, yeah, no one knows what they're doing. We're learning how to wave dash. Didn't know how to thing, and then like Melee FC came, and then it was like wall teching. What the heck is that? Like I had no idea where that came from. And then after that was like MLG era, where everyone like took the game pretty seriously. And I remember the first MLG, they did that light shield Martha Edgeguard thing. I was like, I have no idea what that is, and that came around. And then it was like, yeah, post MLG, and just to echo these guys again. You have to constantly train to even keep up with today's. I'm pretty sure it's the game's near perfection of what the abilities of players can be.
Yeah, but I mean, pretty much everything that these guys said is pretty accurate. I think nowadays, people who are new, they have the advantage to watch videos and see what the top players are doing. You could just mimic it. Back when I started, this is so stupid. Link, I swear to God, Link was like the best because he couldn't get out of shield grabs. So he had that hook shot, and then everyone would stand on the edge and just up B because they couldn't sweet spot. And he's like, oh my God, that guy's a bitch. But now you see everything. You can. We didn't have videos to see what the East Coast and the West Coast are doing. It's like we only saw them at major tournaments, so it was like a slower progression. And nowadays, I think it's almost lightning fast. I think that was all tournament games. Anyway,
I think what I see more often than not, it's exactly what happened to me. I come in not really knowing what I'm doing. I'm meeting all these people, most of these people sitting right here in my first year or two. And at first, I do terribly. I get knocked out of pools first round every single time. But then over the course of a couple of months, I slowly start competing and take a game. And then from there, you kind of get a step above, and then now you're starting to win tournaments. And then from there, like a year later, the same thing happens again. You have a whole new wave of brand new faces, and the process starts over and over again. I think it's happening at a more exponential rate now, and I think everyone in this room is extremely competitive. Everyone does really well. I think these people coming in now are almost missing that first step where everyone loses like terribly right off the bat. So I think it's really great to see all these new people coming in really, really competing. So that's just an example of how much the metagame's changed in my opinion.
Excellent. Because it has been 10 years, and some of you have been playing for a while, essentially I did an interview with M2K not too long ago, and he mentioned how
delicious food.
He will never be as good as he used to be, because his reflexes have gone back, he's gotten older. And it got me thinking, do you think that there's a cap, like there's an age where you just start to lose it, or does that even matter as much? Like, is it more about the mind game, is more about the strategy going in?
I think whatever age you get, like Alzheimer's is about the right age. B2 King John's about everything he can find. He throws up on futons. He's a nice guy. He's got some stuff up here. I'm just like, he's not used to losing anymore. There's been about a half dozen players who have actually figured him out, and it is possible. And I think that's inspirational in itself. The fact that someone who's considered a robot, the perfect tech skill giant, can be taken down with just a new way of looking at the game. And yeah, fingers aren't a problem. Reflexes don't go away until like old or something. The king.
I will say that I've noticed, in general, younger players seem to do better, and I would say, and that's maybe in around the 20 age, like 18 to 22, those players seem to do a little bit better as a whole than the older crowd. And I don't know if that is because of like reflexes going or whatever. That's probably just a Me Too King John. But I will say that it seems to be a trend in some other games as well. The more people play, you would think they would continue to get better, but sometimes it doesn't necessarily work that way. I feel like some people do start to lose the edge, I guess, after a while, but it's something that you really just have to drive yourself to get back. I mean, I kind of felt that way myself like a year or two ago, but now I'm definitely playing the best Melee I've ever played, so there's no age gap in my opinion where your reflexes just won't work. It's really about your mindset and your motivation.
I would definitely agree with that. I feel recently that maybe there is something to the whole like aging thing and just getting older and not being able to to physically perform quite as well. But I mean, there's a lot to be made, there's a lot of ground to be able to be made up just through experience alone. You know, they talk about, you watch the old martial arts movies where they talk about youth versus experience, and it's the same thing for Melee. It just works. You get older, you've seen more things, you get out there and you just know. You know what their options are, you know what your options are, and you can just kind of, it's almost like following a script sometimes. You can just kind of predict what's going on, and you get really good reads, and it gets easier in a lot of ways, even as it gets harder.
I don't know, the thing for me was like the reason I went to tournaments, like in my prime, like going like every single weekend, was just like that one new guy, that really good guy that was showing up to the tournament. I was like, that's the reason I want to go, that's the reason I want to be there, I want to be good to beat that guy. And like as you go to like, I don't know, over 100 tournaments I've been to, I have no idea, but you just like, okay, everyone's good, like what's the point? Like you just you keep going and going. Yeah.
This guy's reading Don't Kill Myself books.
Yeah, I don't think age had any bearing on playing well or not. I really think it's just almost desire. It's how good you want to be. And the people who want, like Metagame, if you want to be the best, you can go and train. And if you train, you're like he does. I mean, he's a freak. I mean, he can be perfect technically, but he doesn't think outside the box. And sometimes you gotta be a little more creative to get around things. And unfortunately, he doesn't seem to do that. But if you take a look at professional sports, which is really unique, and it's not going to be anything like this. But the average baseball player and hockey player have their best years at the age of 28, which is the balance of youth and experience. And they actually need their body. So I don't think Melee or anything, you don't need your body, you need your goddamn health.
I think we see most of like the 16 to 22 year range doing better than some of the older guys like us up here. And I don't think it necessarily has to do with a physical ability. I think it's responsibility. Going through college, getting a real job. You don't play near as often as you used to. I mean, we used to do what we called STDs in our day, Smash Till Dawns. And like, we can't do those anymore. I mean, I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning a lot of the time for work, and like I don't have time to play anymore like I used to. So I don't think it's the age as much as the responsibility. If you get a 16-year-old, say we'll take Mango, who's 20 now, and give him like, you know, a 50, 60 hour a week job, I bet you're not going to see him as much around here either. And Mango's, I mean, that's not a knock to anybody at all. That's just an example. If you can take the best of the best and have real responsibility to cut their play time, and you're going to see that anyway you look at it.
Nice. So early on, and I know, I think Chillin, you were interested in creating a ranking system at a certain point. Could you describe that a little bit, and maybe if you guys want to talk about it, why maybe that would or wouldn't work in certain situations, or?
Okay. Yeah, I started basically a panel power rankings. It was based on the opinions of players because, as we all know, tournament results aren't always accurate. People sandbag, things happen. People use Pikachu at a local and stuff like that, it's obviously, I mean, you could create a point-based system using exact tournament results and try to rank it that way, but I really felt that wasn't the most accurate way of doing it. So what I did was I got Hugs from the West Coast because he's a really level-headed dude, and I wanted to not seem biased, so I got a West Coast person. And we just created a list of the 25 best players in the country at that time, in our opinion. And even before we created our own individual lists and then compared them to make the final list, even before we compared them at all, they were already pretty similar. So it shows that, you know, there is kind of a ranking just based on opinion from these years of tournament results. And in my opinion, once we added, you know, a few representatives from each region and made that power ranking really well represented as far as all the regions in the country, I think it actually was more accurate than any point-based system or anything like that based on actual results has been. And I'm not just saying that because I was top 10 the whole time.
I actually, when the SSBM, the one ELO system that's trying to be, perfected right now, when that first came out, I was actually surprised. Obviously, it had flaws, inaccuracies. Like, I remember Little England was top 20 or something. As an example. And then Ken, who had not played for 5 years, was still like in the top 15. I don't know what it was. It was pretty ridiculous. But I can see what it was trying to do. You do try to take tournament results, and you try to put a mathematical equation to, organize everything. Try to see, okay, this player with this score beat this player with that score, hence they both will go up or down according to, how it works. That's ELO. It's, commonly used in most games. But for Smash, I guess there's a strange discrepancy for whatever reason. I don't think a top player should ever sandbag in a tournament, especially if it's a national or you fly out to a top entrance. But I guess they do for some reason. I don't know. But I would look. I would look really forward to getting at least 5 to 10 reps from each coast and just organizing a good list, because tournament results at nationals they have been at least moderately consistent, and I'm pretty sure a consensus could be formed, or at least a tier ranking between players I think would be formed as well. Also, the tier list for Melee right now is completely inaccurate. Jigglypuff is not third at all. Just don't believe it.
You want to say something? I don't know anything to say.
Kind of a tangent. I just wanted to know, Eddie, how did you Ganondorf so hard so early?
Do you say how or why? Well, I actually picked Ganondorf because I just like the character. So, I mean, that was like the main reason. And then when I first started, all I did, all my friends, we all just picked one character, and we just stuck with him, and no matter what, And that's all I knew for many years of how to play Ganondorf. So I thought it was great because you had to learn to get around things as opposed to I'm just going to change it for my character and pick a counter. So it gave me a lot of insight on the game, but it's Ganondorf. I hear Kage's out here somewhere, and I'm sure he knows that guy sucks. It's real hard to win with that guy. So at some point you want to win. You keep going, and you want to win, and you want to be competitive, and you have to make a choice. And unfortunately, Ganondorf, he's probably never going to win a tournament.
What?
In the same kind of vein about characters, HBox, if you could talk a little bit about your choices in terms of characters and stuff, and because I know we talked about this yesterday. And I talked to Wife, had a nice interview with him about the final at Apex and what he thought about that, how Young Link versus Puff, and he loved it. He absolutely loved it because he saw two competitors going at it in any way they could and exploiting the game to its maximum. Now, Wife absolutely has a hard-on for this game, so there is something to be said for that. But what would you say about his way he looks at it?
I know that Wife is very passionate about the game, and I believe I briefly saw his interview. Going back to that match, that's the matchup in general. As soon as it happened for the first time at Con 5, people were on the boards were like, "Oh, Young Link is a clear counter for Jigglypuff. It's obvious. It's of course he is." And I responded in saying, "No, Jigglypuff wins that matchup. It just so happens that I'm playing a person who's right now probably the best player in the world. And when you're at that level, you can exploit that character and change over skill to multiple characters, right? We've played multiple times, and this has gone closer and closer. And then at Genesis 2, I finally took a set off him. Apex, I took a set off him. So that's a matter of adaptability. Good players are very good at adapting. It's a game of long played out chess as well, and it's part of the game evolving. I wasn't very too pleased with the set. It's extremely tense the entire time. People were kind of mocking it and jeering at me the entire time. It takes a toll on you. It's really difficult to try to balance this amazing player who's running away from you the entire time. You're just trying to chase him and not get gimmicked, which he has executed so well every single time. And people have seen how I react after I win a match, especially at tennis. It's I nearly lost my mind when I won that 1% match. So it was that was crazy. It was a coin flip, but yeah, it's a matter of adaptability.
And actually, on the same vein, if you talk about like your greatest victory, like in
My greatest victory in Melee. There was this guy named Ken. Didn't lose a tournament for like 3 years, and then I beat him when I was 14 and couldn't short hop. That's probably it.
He did. Gosh, greatest victory. I don't know. Well, it wouldn't have been a big tournament anyway. No. I don't know. I feel more accomplished just being able to be, you know, a part of the community and seeing everything evolve and have fun playing the game. You know, my tournament record, I'm sure most of you have seen, it's not the greatest, not anywhere close, but it's just such a fun game to just keep playing and to be able to keep coming back to a community that just keeps it going for so long is kind of its own reward.
I don't know greatest victory. I know what I do like doing is frustrating the opponent as much as I can. It's one of my favorite things to do. I once chain grabbed a 8-year-old girl 4 times at a game junkie tournament in Ohio. And I loved it, and I loved it with her mom watching, looking at me, shaking her head. Let's see. Or like when an opponent will like, oh yeah, we were chilling, dude. He took me to green greens. Like, yeah, I'm gonna mess him up on green greens. And then I was like, all right, I got tech and chess on this little platform right here. I did 4 stock. I guess, yeah, just when I get really confident people like just think they're gonna win with a certain strategy, and that blowing up in their face really makes me happy.
You must be very proud, Griffin. I guess my greatest victory, I can remember, it's probably one of my best memories of Smash Brothers, is I won the Flame of Bowser's 2 tournament. And I got sent to the losers bracket early, and everyone's like, oh man, you're done. And I'm like, I must be done. And I won a whole bunch of games, and I remember Vigio was there, and then some guy named Nick B beat Vigio. So I had to play Vigio, and I was like, yes. And I beat Nick B, and then I had to play Kiss Cube, and he usually, I hated playing him because he was Sheik and I was Ganondorf, and it was a bad matchup. But I remember beating him on Jungle Japes, and that was just in itself an accomplishment. And then I had to beat Kiss Squared twice in a best out of 5, and it went all 10 games. All 10 games. It was a brutal match. And he suicided at the last time. It was totally anticlimactic, but it was definitely fun.
I would say some of my favorite victories were Eddie here, dethroning him and making him pick up Marth instead of Ganondorf. That was really fun. Other than that was probably teams against Forward and Dark Rain and Insomnia tournament down in Nashville. Taking them out and then winning the tournament was really fun. And teams would keep speeding back in the day. So those are probably my favorite times. That and I beat Chillin' Dude one time on Mushroom Kingdom 2. Back in our day, that was legal. So.
I've actually got one I just remembered. was just yesterday. Iggy and I managed to strike 2 and beat a team on Flat Zone.
Nice. Well, we're kind of getting at the end here. I would love to hear your guys' predictions for the community. You know, what you love about it, where you think it's going, and you know your plans for the future.
I mean, I'd want 20 more years of Melee, but I was actually kind of dismayed to hear that Smash 4 is already coming out next year. It's been 5 years already, so quickly, and I just hope Melee, fares well with 2.5 games, still ahead of it. But I'm sure, because the community is really strong and unique in itself and taking inspiration from itself, I'm sure it'll keep going strong, and I'm sure the community will always adapt to any problems that it has. And maybe the new game will be more like Melee. We have a whole new, team developing it. I believe it was Namco, and you know, that might be really interesting, so we'll see where it goes. Hopefully it's not like Street Fighter. But, in terms of, I guess, my future, what someone said earlier about going to college and not getting enough time to play, that I can't stress how completely true that is in some cases. I will move from Orlando to Gainesville, and that's basically me saying I'm going to move from, you know, the best scene in Florida to one of the smallest scenes in Florida nowadays, and it's really hard to maintain skill level. You have to do what you can. You have to play people who are just picking the game up. You know, just one Luigi player, I guess, I play sometimes, and I got school to focus on and doing, you know, engineering degree in college, and, you know, life takes its toll on the relationships, family, college, and having this game there, it not only is a nice escape from, you know, stress and things like that, but it really shows you, you know, how much diversity there is in choices of what you can do as a hobby, and I'm really glad to be part of the community, and I've come this far. I never thought it would happen, but I really am glad that my life turned out this way, and it's thanks to you guys, so I appreciate it.
So, January 2004 was game over, and after that tournament, basically half the people who went were like, "Oh, I'm retiring Melee now." So this Melee is about to die notion that some people have has been going on for over 8 years, and, you know, we're still here. So clearly Melee, you know, is a special enough game that it's not going to die anytime soon. I would like to see Project M take off. I don't know, you know, how possible that is, given that it is a mod, but, you know, it's already got 100 entrants at this. I'd like to see that game take off a lot, because it's sort of just a fresh coat of paint on Melee, and that would be really interesting to see. But as far as, you know, growing like local communities, it's really about the motivation of the players. If the players want to find venues, you know, host tournaments, have streams like BG Bootcamp does, those are the types of things that draw in new players. You know, at this point in Melee's time, it's really difficult to get brand new people to join the scene, but those are the types of things, holding local tournaments often, you know, giving new players advice too, you know, until they start beating you, you can give them advice. Things like that will really help to grow local scenes and eventually, you know, make the nationals bigger as well. So, like I said, I'd like to see Project M take off, but I still think Melee will keep going for several more years at least.
I would definitely agree with that. To paraphrase what Chillin said, the community exists because the players want it to. You guys are what makes this happen. You're the ones that put the events together. You're the ones that travel all over this freaking huge country to go play these games. You know, I've been there too. I've been all over the East Coast. I've been up here for several times. It's just part of the song and dance. Yeah, as long as there are people interested in doing it, it'll continue to happen, and I can foresee that going on for at least a couple of years. I know Chillin's talking about Project M, and I'm really excited to see that kind of take off too. I mean, I'm biased and working on it, so. But yeah, it's just, you know, it's an evolution. It's a continual process, and I would be really excited to see it just continue and even increase in the coming years.
Yeah, I'm ready for a new Smash. This one, what, 12 years for one video game? I mean, I love it to death, but I really want something new. It would be kind of cool to see, like, all the Melee and Brawl players, you know, kind of combined into one game in, like, different, you know, kind of tactics and personalities they bring to the table. As for the community, I mean, the reason I still come to these things, mostly just for the friends, for the faces. I mean, how many of you out there just came just to see friends? Get out of your parents' basements, come on. Anyway, yeah, this game, I think, it still has a few more years, but I really like to see new Smash. I think it'll be sweet.
Yeah, new Smash Brothers obviously would be great if it's not Brawl. I mean, if people are going to travel and go to the tournament, then this game will be... I never thought this game was going to last 10 years. So, it could probably last another 10, and there will still be people. I mean, there's new people here I don't even know. So, it's going to go. I would imagine it stays around. As long as, unless the new Smash Brothers just throws it. I mean, that's the only way it's not going to go. So...
What?
Or remodded.
Or you modded, yeah. Fantastic. And which is probably even better than what the game designer is going to do, because at least we know what we like. They don't listen. So yeah, we'll be around. There's no way to
I think the best example is the fact that there's a Nintendo 64 tournament going on over there. This community is not going anywhere. We're going to be around here, guys. We're still playing that. Like, I can say with certainty that this community is not going anywhere. I know people like me. I do this stuff for the friends now, too. These people I've known for 7, 8, 9 years, and they're great people. Like, there's times where Trail, for example, I'll go up and we'll hang out and go to bars and stuff and just have a good time and not play a single match of Melee. It's that kind of time that we still do this stuff for. So I don't think anyone's going anywhere. I think we're all going to see each other's faces for a long time to come. So.
Alright, so now we do have some time for questions. If anybody has any questions for these fine young gentlemen up here, please do come down to the microphone at the front. So in the meantime, I'm actually, I don't know if you noticed, I'll be like over there in that corner with my interview set up for the entire time. If you do have any amazing stories about Smash or just like little things like that, feel free to come by. It's ostensibly, the story takes place over the entire course of where we've come so far in Melee, through the golden ages of MLG and then since. But yeah, if you have any stories of that nature, feel free to come by and talk about it. So, one question.
All right. Over the years in Smash, obviously, there have been a lot of tournament victories that have kind of been changes of directions, kind of that have inspired whole new lines of thinking about the game. Here on commentary, we've talked a lot about thinking outside the box, picking up new characters. In you guys' opinions, what is the one tournament victory that you saw or was a part of that you feel completely changed the direction of Melee or inspired something, made a huge impact?
When you talk about tournament victories, obviously the bigger ones, the international ones, are the ones that would change directions the most. And I would definitely have to say Genesis 1, for sure. Not even regarding what the placings was, but when Armada came from Europe, and everyone not even thought of him doing good, just a Peach player. Peach never wins. He came there, along with the rest of Europe, and the man just plowed through everything and made it to grand finals, and he had the winning record in grand finals, and he was inches away from taking the tournament. That was incredible. And I know I'm not a big fan of Brawl, but if you guys have seen some of the matches just this week between M2K and 9B, MattDotZeb versus Ice Climbers, for the first time I watched it, I'm like, this is actually incredibly entertaining. I don't know why, but Japan's never been better than us in Melee, I never think, ever. And now Music King got 7th place at the last Japan tournament and 17th in doubles. That's pretty crazy for how good that guy is at the game. So any tournament like Genesis, in which the international community comes out and shows you a completely new way to approach a character, that's what changes the metagame.
I'm going to have to go with Pound 3 was clearly the most notable transition from old school to new school. The losers bracket that Mango went through at that tournament is the most ridiculous thing. If you actually look at it, it contains some of the best old school names ever. Azin, Chu, among others. He just plowed through the entire losers bracket after going Link and losing to Silent Wolf or something, and ended up coming back and taking the whole tournament. And this was, this kid from the West Coast who, shout out to Mango, this kid from the West Coast who, well, now I don't even want to do this anymore. He's enjoying this too much. No, this kid from the West Coast who we knew was good from his Evo performance, but we had no idea he was ready to take a national, especially coming out of losers with the losers bracket that he had was one of the most brutal losers bracket of all time, and it really just showed that new school players definitely stepped their game up and took the game in a totally different direction, shifted the metagame to more technical, more defensive and safe play, things like that. But that was really the turning point in my opinion.
Just to pick something different from a more kind of a metagame perspective was definitely the rise of Ken on the national scene. Because before that, I can remember seeing talk about character potential, and it was like Fox Falco Chic. everybody was kind of like, you know, those are the top three. Marth, you know, he's got range, I guess, but you know, what else can you do? He doesn't really have a whole lot of tools that can compete with the speed and the power and the just general ability of the other three. And slowly but surely, over the course of about a year, Ken just kind of walked through everybody and, you know, changed the game forever.
That's all you got to me.
For like 6 hours. Yeah, that was a pretty impressive transformation across the entire community. Going Marth is, you know, decent to Marth being maybe one of the top two, and it wasn't a permanent transition thing, but it was, you know, it was amazing to see people go, wow, he's actually a really good character.
Mine is OC3, Mewtwo King 4-stocked Isaiah, and I was like, that's it. This game is over. The robots have won, and I watched it that night, crying on the inside. But yeah, that was about the point where it was like, you know, old school, new school.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess for me, I guess it would be the MLG era, because that was a point in which people thought, oh my god, I can do this for a living. And I think it was like the transition from like being like, yeah, I want to be competitive to I have to be competitive. Like, I don't want to get a real job. I want to play Smash Bros. The rest of my life. Go on Survivor, real. But yeah, I mean, I think that's just a total different mindset in there. It's like, this is a potential money. You know, you can make a living.
I think we've seen it at least a half dozen times. I mean, Ken was the best. Everyone knew that back when I started. And then he slowly got overthrown by PC Chris. And the next thing you know, you have Mewtwo King coming in and overthrowing him. And now I had some time off there in the middle, but now like Mango's here, now Armada's here. And I think it keeps happening over and over, and it goes back to that exponential pace that I talked about. And I think it's going to keep happening quicker and quicker. I think here in the next year, Armada's going to be overthrown. Ken had his seat for years, and that gap just keeps getting lower and lower and lower. So I think we're going to keep seeing it more and more. I don't think there's one definite time that I would say that it was like, oh man, here's your transition. I think it's been happening the whole time.
Thanks, guys.
One more question. I have a question just for Eddie. Obviously, since you're a Ganondorf player, you've experienced some pretty difficult matchups. Throughout your entire Smash career, what was one point that you were very, what's the word? Discouraged, yeah. Well, there's one time that you were very discouraged about playing, and what did you do about it?
Well, when I was first chain grabbed by Sheik, it was the time in which I was going to lose my mind. It's like the most frustrating thing, because it's like she can jab me and just grab me before I can do anything.
I remember you getting really angry at me.
Yeah, this guy. Yeah. And then all he does is grab and down smash.
Yeah.
Literally, yeah, I'm not even kidding. And you know, it's just very frustrating. And then they learned to duck my grabs. Yeah. Because I had to change grab back. I'm like, if I can just grab him, it'll be fine. But then they learned to duck. So it's like everything that you do is like this. It's always discouraging, and it's like I think that's why it's like so great to win with that. Because like when I did win, it was like, oh my fucking god. You know?
And I have one question that deals with that as well. How would you advise your other fellow Ganondorf mates to deal with that? If you ever experienced that as well?
It seems terrible, but you just have to deal with it and try to do do stupid things. Yeah. Like, because sometimes the stupidest thing works.
Yeah, Kage.
You know, and even like Mewtwo King, like sometimes you do something stupid, he's gonna be like, what?
The best option is not always the best option.
So time for one more? You got one more question.
I just thought out for dude. You know, like, I wanted to know, since there's been a lot of rivalry between East Coast and West Coast from when you guys were started, and it's kind of like, you know, the all came out because everyone's all buddy. Like, what exactly sparked that rivalry?
It was from 2002 to 2004, there were very few times when East Coast and West Coast actually got together. So back then on Smash boards, if you thought you were good, and that was your ticket to say that you were good on the boards and type paragraphs and paragraphs about it for hours on end for no reason, you probably spent more time posting on Smash boards than practicing Melee. So that's really what created it, was just the rivalry of, no, we're better than you, no, we're better than you. And that's just, I mean, it honestly was just that, because we didn't have the tournaments playing each other to actually see who was better. And then once we actually started getting those going, it only made it more intense, because Ken was winning, but then Azin was getting second, beating Isaiah, and then, you know, the rest of the East Coast was doing way better than anyone else on the West Coast. And that's what eventually sparked the idea for the regional crew battle. Shout out to the Ship of Fools for coming up with crews. One of the coolest ideas anyone's ever had in Smash. And so we took that crew idea and wanted to show West Coast that we were better than them as a whole. And so that's where the idea of regional crews came about. The 10 best players from each region, you know, going at it in a crew battle. And that still might be the most hype I've ever felt in a Smash event, the East Coast versus West Coast crew battle. Because it's not so much that it just was, you know, the greatest matches of all time or anything like that. Even though they were really good matches, it's just the fact that there was so much on the line. You know, it wasn't just those 10 people. It was also everyone in the crowd supporting, and then everyone back home who couldn't make the tournament. You're still representing them too. So regional crews just became, you know, an amazingly hype event, mainly for that year, because after that, you know, there were people missing and things like that. We never had the same hype as for that first one, but East Coast did end up pulling it out. Azin brought it home for us, which was, you know, symbolic in a way, because he was like the father of the East Coast. So it really showed that just because Ken and Isaiah were two of the three best players and they lived on West Coast, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean West Coast is better. East Coast definitely had more depth, and we showed it. So, I mean, like I said, that was still one of the most hype moments in Smash ever, and it happened at one of the FCs.
Thanks for the question. Thank you guys so much. We're out of time. Okay, cool. Well, thanks you guys for coming up and you know, doing this. And I'm sure if you guys have more questions, they'll be around to answer them for you.
Thanks a lot, Samox. Really appreciate it. That was highly entertaining. All right, everyone. You got 15 minutes until the start of round 2. It's Melee single.